The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, UNU Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to All You Can Eat. It's the podcast about deliciousness. I'm your host, Rob Rosenthal, and I am super delighted to be with you here live today on the 15th day of September in the year 2021. You know, why am I excited about tonight's podcast? Because I've been on hiatus for a little bit, during which time I spent a couple of weeks in Italy. And, I mean, in a word, it was phenomenal. And I am looking forward to sharing some of my experiences with you so that I can do what I do, which is to make recommendations about things that I think are great, that I love, whether it's places to go or things to eat, obviously, because this is a podcast about deliciousness. And I've got to say that, when it comes to deliciousness, Italy is way, way up there. I often in these podcasts, especially when I'm interviewing, chefs and cooks, I will say to people, or cookbook authors or whomever, one of the questions I like to ask is, if you could live anywhere in the world, based entirely on the food, where would it be? And it's not going to be a surprise to hear people say, well, I would go to France. I mean, other people might say, I like Spain. I personally am a fan of Tokyo. It would not be wrong to hear people say, Singapore, because the diversity there is amazing. Same you could say with America. If you had to pick a country to eat in, you can certainly have a lot of great food here in the United States of America. But you will always hear on the top of that list from a lot of people, Italy, and with good reason, because the food there is extraordinary. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, obviously, along the way, because this is the podcast about deliciousness. But I have so much more to describe as far as the vacation, the country, the people, because this vacation was extraordinary, memorable, one of the best ever. And to be honest, I'm somewhat surprised, and not surprised because Italy is going to always be great. That's not what I mean. I'm surprised at how great, how fantastic, how much fun, how delicious, how beautiful, how great the entire experience was. And so I want to share a bunch of that with you, including, by the way, an interview that I conducted along the way with Ermanno Zanini, who's the general manager at the Capri Palace Hotel over in Capri, and the place is amazing, and he's great. So you can stay tuned in this podcast for my conversation with Ermanno about the hotel, about Italy, about Capri, I guess part of my surprise, this vacation is still with me. I mean, I that's not really a revelation. It's just that it was so great that I can't get it off my mind. I keep thinking about it, the things that we did. And, I mean, you could attribute some of that to the fact that, we've been on lockdown for like a long time. I mean, 15 months. I hadn't really gone anywhere, and I'm accustomed to moving around. In fact, leading into the pandemic lockdown, which was March of 2020, I had been to 15 countries in the year leading into it. That's a lot. I had never been quite to that many places in that condensed a period of time. But let's put it this way: I missed travel, right? So part of my excitement with getting back out into the world was based on the fact that I hadn't been anywhere for a while. I'll give you that. Part of it is because we're in a new kind of environment with the pandemic and with the and with COVID. And so it takes more consideration, more due diligence, more preparation to travel these days. And so, it turns out that Italy was a great place to go. I will describe to you why that was the case. But I think the ultimate part of my kind of super pleasant surprise with Italy this time is that I've been there before. I've been there many times before, 12, 15 times before to Italy. And, as a guy who has always expressed the fact that I'm a variety junkie, I will always want to choose something new for the most part versus the tried and the true. There are some places that you can always go back to and always feel good about. There are places that I have been to more times than I have been to Italy. I'm thinking about France, I'm thinking about Mexico, certainly Brazil. But I would say fourth on my list of countries that I visited is probably Italy. And so, I'm not expecting kind of like something brand new from an experience standpoint, but I knew that I was happy to go back there. And I was pleasantly surprised to tell you that I felt very safe there. And so, before I get into kind of the specifics on it, whether or not you've been there, to Italy that is, there's a whole lot for me to report on here. Obviously the food, which we mentioned, the sights, some of the accommodations, the driving, because I did a whole bunch of that, some of the activities that we engaged in, some of the recreational, let's put it that way. And I want to tell you a little bit about the people, as well as how they're handling the whole tourism situation in the age of COVID. So let's start at the beginning, which is Italy, the country itself. So much of it is so beautiful. That is not necessarily new news, but I was reminded of it on this trip. And if I look at a map, I'm going to go take a quick peek at a map right now. If I look at a map, it's when you look at a map, you go, wait a second, Italy it's just bordered by so much water everywhere you look. There are 4 seas, and there are a whole number of gulfs, and literally the only part of this country that is not bordered by water, right? So I'm looking up on the north end here, where Italy borders France, Switzerland, and Austria. But even up there, in Lombardy, you have lakes. You have the fantastic lake district with Lake Como, where you can go up and hang out with George, who's the famous actor there? You know what I'm talking about. Because that's just fantastic up there. I have been fortunate in my trips to this country. I have been up to the Lake District. I have been to Lake Como. I have been up to Venice recently even. Fantastic. I have been to Emilia-Romagna, which includes the capital of that part of the world, Bologna, where you're eating just incredible food. I've been to Tuscany, including on this trip. I've been to Umbria and reported on the wine over in Umbria. I've been to Rome a number of times. I've been down on the Amalfi Coast. I've been even over to Sardinia. So I've covered a lot of territory here. I've covered a lot of ground here, and yet this trip somehow, even though I've gone to some of the places that I went to on this very trip, it struck me again how stunning so much of this country is. Because what isn't kind of on gorgeous seaside, whether you're on the Tyrrhenian Sea, the Adriatic Sea, the Ionian Sea, the Ligurian Sea, what isn't kind of gorgeous is often these verdant valleys filled with vineyards and vegetables. And, here I'm thinking about Umbria and Tuscany, and then you have that Lake District up north, and of course you have some of the most amazing cities in the world, namely Rome and Florence, just to name a couple there. Just world-class, gorgeous, stunning, fantastic, amazing cities. In fact, here's the funny part of it. Even though there's so much to see and do in this country, I realized even after spending a couple of weeks there, and all the times that I've been there, there's still so much more for me to see and do. And I'm saying that because somehow, the Google algorithms, I guess I must have done a couple of searches, so now there's hardly a day that goes by that I'm not getting an article about 10 amazing sights to see on the Amalfi Coast, or, what to eat here, or what to do there. And I'm thinking to myself, of all the places that I've been, there's a whole bunch that I haven't. There's more to do and see up in this country. Just, it was fantastic. I felt safe there. We had to fill out a lot of forms and, props over to American Airlines, which anytime you give them props to an airline, you're thinking twice. But anyway, the point is, they did a good job of telling us what it was that we needed. And, obviously you have to be vaccinated, and, you're going to be wearing masks, and you have to fill out these different forms because you're traveling to Italy. There's a locator. And then, anyway, the point is, even after doing the preliminary kind of work of getting all the paperwork that we needed done, what I want to say about Italy was that I felt safe there. They're taking it seriously. You would be asked for proof of vaccination at so many of the places we went, where they were restaurants or hotels or even shops. People were masked up indoors. There was hand sanitizer everywhere I went. And here's the bonus, right? I'm there in August. I mean, to be honest with you, I would normally not go in August because it's prime time, tourist season, so it's going to be a little crowded. But the thing about it is that it's hot, and there's outdoor eating. And I would say if I ate 30 meals there, 29 of them were outside. So in addition to kind of all the safety protocols, in addition to kind of like everybody's being careful and sensitive and keeping some distance, the dining was outside. So good on you, good on American, good on Italy. Happy to report all of those things. It felt as safe to be there as being, well, here in America. Now, as far as transportation, we flew into Rome and rented a car. And this is a big deal. I have done this before because I like to do the kind of trips where we get in a car and we go to places. And that's another advantage to Italy. I can start off in Rome and I can go pretty much any direction. And within a reasonable number of hours, I can be somewhere fabulous. So, for example, rented a car at the airport in Rome, and then 3 hours later, I'm down on the Amalfi Coast. And one other note about the weather, by the way, it's hot and crowded, in August because everybody's on vacation. But now, like September and October, super prime time, great time to get to Italy, beautiful weather. And I'll also say, that even though August is historically the prime tourist season, there weren't as many people around because of the whole COVID situation. So we went to some places, including the ruins of Pompeii over by Naples, and not crowded. Had to show proof, had to do all the things that you had to do, great, but not super crowded. Anyway, got in the car, and here's what I mean, it's not for everybody, and I'm going to tell you why it's not for everybody. The Italians take driving seriously. The Italians, God bless them, they eat slowly. I mean, meals can be, 2 to 3 hours, everybody at the table. Tutti a tavola a mangiare, she always says there on her television show, the mom there who cooks. The Italians cherish the food and the table and the slow food movement. I'm assuming even originated down there, and they're in no rush to eat. They're in no rush to move you in and out of the restaurant. They appreciate food in a way that's almost a religious experience. But when they get back on the road, man, they have no patience. They drive fast, and if you're in the left-hand lane, if you're in the passing lane, you better get your ass out of there in a hurry. That lane is for passing. I mean, they are so close to you that if you sneeze, you're dead. You know, I mean, driving up there, if you're going to drive, and I'm big on this. I mean, I've driven this country before. I like driving. I like driving fast. I mean, on average, you know, you're doing 90, 95 miles an hour, no problem, right? I mean, 160, 150 kilometers an hour, because that's what it is. And, you know, it's not inexpensive. I mean, it's to rent a car is not inexpensive, you know, but it's part of the plan. Generally, the standard there is a manual shift. If you want to pay more, you can have, you know, the automatic. But I'm going to tell you this, man. They're serious about the driving, and the Autostrada, which is kind of the main road that's going to get you up and down that country. Terrific. I mean, excellent, clean, organized. The signs, getting around the country. Even kind of Waze or Google Maps or whatever it is that you use, getting around the country because of their system, it's quite organized. And the Autostrada is great and it's fast. Get out of the way. Just get out of the way or do 100 miles an hour and push other people out of the way. So if you're going to drive, I ended up driving 1,300 miles during the 2 weeks there. If you're going to drive, just, you know the rules of the road, not complicated. On a technical level, you're going to want to know how to pay tolls. I know that it doesn't seem that complicated, but it strikes me that I've been in situations there where I was panicked about holding people up behind me because, you know, some places take coins, some takes the credit, or the instructions are in Italian. Sorry, excuse me. So just know that if you're going to be driving up and down the Autostrada, know how to pay tolls, and then know how to pay for gas, which is not all that complicated either, especially because if you have any problem with it, there's attendants generally at the station that'll handle it for you. But yeah, I drove, and drove a lot, and drove very quickly. What else about Italy in general? The food and the food culture. Enormous respect, as I said, for the meal, for the table, and blessed with some of the world's best ingredients, right? Whether it's tomatoes from San Marzano, ham, prosciutto from Parma, the balsamic vinegar, the pasta, but what's growing at the lemons down where I was in the south part of Italy, anywhere you go in this country, there is a respect and a pride for the food. And I've always said to people, and I'll never forget it, that you have to really try to get a bad meal. You can't get a bad meal in Italy. I mean, I suppose you could. I just haven't had one. And that includes, by the way, that includes when you stop at the rest stops on the Autostrada, on the highway. Because even the food in there is prepared and presented by a staff of people that are wearing white jackets. In other words, professional cooks. Not some sullen teenager with a name tag on. These are people, again, that are professional food preparers. So even on the Autostrada, you pop in for your fresh made espresso, maybe a panini. Oh wait, they're squeezing some oranges, some Sicilian blood oranges for orange juice, and then some of the stops along the Autostrada have also a marketplace. And you're going to buy yourself along the way a fantastic bottle of Amarone or a Barolo. You're going to buy a huge chunk of delicious Parmesan Reggiano. I mean, it's lovely, lovely markets, beautiful food. Happy always to stop on the Autostrada. Actually, look forward to it. But the thing about Italy and food is the love, the respect. I mean, literally a bad meal there is considered a moral failure. They take their food seriously. It's delicious, and it changes from region to region. I didn't mention it. There are 20 different regions in Italy, and each one of them brings you a little something different and a little something fantastic and unique. And then, of course, you have the sights, whether it's the incredible ruins in Pompeii, whether it's the little cliff towns along the Amalfi Coast like Positano, whether it's the island of Capri, the city of Rome, the city of Florence, old hilltop town San Gimignano. I'm going to tell you about some of those because I stopped at every single one of them along the way. And then, of course, any kind of vacation that you have, obviously, you have the opportunity to play. And we made a point of getting out a bit. So we did a kayak in the Bay of Naples for sunset. I mean, just amazing. You're on the water as the sun is setting. That's sensational. We went up to Naples from where we were to get on what they called water bikes. I mean, literally, you're pedaling on what appears to be a bike on a raft. Fantastic. And we even took a stunningly gorgeous 3-hour bike ride through the hills of Chianti. Now, when I say hills, I mean, let's put it this way. We had electric powered bikes, so you could use those to help get up the hill. So I'll tell you about some of those things, because these were all the things that we did on the trip. And then, as I said, once I kind of walk you through some of the highlights from our Amalfi Coast experience, let's get on with my chat here with Ermanno Zanini, the general manager over at the Capri Palace. I was really just a super luxurious, fantastic place. We'll get on with him, and then if there's time after that, I'll come back and tell you about the Tuscany part of the trip and Rome, or if not, we'll just save that for part 2. But the highlights started with the drive from the airport in Rome down to the Amalfi Coast. Now, you probably have heard of the Amalfi Coast before. It's pretty famous. It's a 30-mile stretch of coastline. It's along the southern edge of Italy's peninsula down there, Sarentine Peninsula. Everywhere you look, sheer cliffs, rugged shoreline dotted with small beaches, fishing villages that are these amazing pastel colors, and like cliff top driving on a road that's winding you past kind of vineyards and lemon groves and giant villas. I just want to say, and again, this goes back to the conversation about driving. The driving here is insane, and I am the first to admit it. Don't do this if you don't love driving and you don't have sufficient experience driving on tiny, winding, cliffside roads where the roads are actually so narrow that oftentimes when you get up into the Amalfi Coast area, you have to stop so that a bus can pass you coming the other direction, because there's not room for you and the tour bus. Moreover, you will notice, you can't help but notice, that if you're in a little car driving around the Amalfi Coast, oftentimes you turn your side view mirrors inward, because that's how close you are from destroying them on the right side against a mountain as you're looking 500 feet down into the sea, or on the left side from oncoming traffic. I mean, I'm being honest here. I'm all for the drive. I love doing it. But you have to be confident, be beyond careful, and be prepared not to drink. That was a challenge. We stayed in the city of Sorrento, which I hadn't been to before, and I really, really like a lot. I would do that again. As a base for the Amalfi Coast, we found a bed and breakfast place in Sorrento. Terrific base to have because it gave us access southbound to all of the great little places that you may want to stop, whether it's Amalfi or Positano, or you want to take a ferry over to Capri, which we did. And you can go also northbound because you want to go into Napoli or you want to go see Pompeii. So terrific place. And also, without getting specific about the place that we stayed, you can certainly reach out to me if this is interesting to you. But the advantage of staying, because we spent essentially 6 days in this part of the world, in Sorrento. And the advantage to the Airbnb is not only that, theoretically you can find something that's maybe more cost efficient than one of the great hotels on the mountain, but there's something about having your own apartment and the feeling of as if you are living there that's really kind of special, especially if you can walk from it to the major sights, sounds, supermarket, views, restaurants, downtown, cobblestone, blah 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 of the city that you're in which case the city was Sorrento. Loved it, loved our Airbnb, and most importantly for us, we were able to park the car there, which was great. Great food in Sorrento, lovely people, sweet city. And, a mile basically, you can walk it, you can taxi it down to the ferry. And the first ferry that we took was to Positano, which is pretty well known. It was a gorgeous little cliffside village. And to be honest, I come from New York. I think it's that's not a surprise, obviously. You can hear that I'm from New York, but I think it surprises some people that aren't from here that some of the greatest beaches in the world are here in New York. And I'm talking about the eastern end, for example, of Long Island. So I mention this in the context of Positano because there are people hanging out on the beach, which is fine, but these are not I'm not there for the beach. We have better beaches. Theirs are lovely, but different. They're shorter, they're not so sandy, they're rocky, and the water's great. I mean, the water's warm, and there's a lot of people hanging out in the water. That I totally understand. But Positano you're going to because you're going to just float around there because it's fabulous. Old cobblestone streets, shops, a beautiful sight, and we actually had a very precise agenda, which was a restaurant called Da Adolfo. I can't recommend it highly enough. There are certain restaurants that you go to that the instant you walk in, you realize you're in something special. You're in a party. The people in that restaurant are like me in the sense that some of them are lucky tourists and others of them are local. And the place is sitting right on the water, right on the beach, elevated a couple of feet. The breeze is coming in. The crowd is just excited to be there. And you can order some white wine with peaches in it, because that's the thing to do. And the mussels, zuppa de cozzi, the mussel soup, is, to be honest, is as good as any that I've ever had. And they served a pasta, a spaghetti pasta, with a green peppercorn pesto. The pesto made of green peppercorns that are grown only right here in Positano. And amazing. In a word, amazing, glorious, delicious food with waves crashing into the shore. And the name of the place is Da Adolfo in Positano. And if you can get there, you want to go there. Lunchtime is the time, but lunch there, again, that could be, you could pop in there at 3:30. There's still people enjoying lunch. And if you can reserve, I suppose you can you're going to want to do that one a month in advance. Just amazing place. Amazing place, Adolfo and Positano. We took a drive to another one of those little fishing villages, the charming little town of Nerano. And again, we went to Nerano, honestly, for lunch. Because there was another place that was recommended to us called Lo Scoglio. On the water, outside, beautiful day. And in particular, we went to the town of Nerano because that was where a pasta dish was invented. Now, you got to know how hard it is to know where certain things were invented. Well, they do a pasta with a zucchini sauce that was invented right here in the town of Nerano. And I would say, as the kids like to say, OMG. It takes a while to make. It's made with zucchini. It's like nothing else you've ever tasted before. It is a plate of awesomeness, sitting on a beautiful day overlooking the sea. And there in the distance is, by the way, the $400 million yacht of some Russian oligarch who was also in the hood. And you don't have to drive to the town of Nerano. In fact, a lot of people just pull up to the dock. This is the ultimate, what they call dock and dine. This is great eating in a beautiful place with an amazing pasta dish called pasta, well, I don't know what they call it in Italian, but it's pretty obvious. It's the specialty, among other things. I mean, sea urchin is coming, and seafood is coming, and just fantasticness is coming all around. And then I had never been to Pompeii, and I'll be honest with you, I'm guilty. I'm guilty that of all the things there are to do in Italy, which include things like art and culture and geography and geology and history, I'm there for the food. I'm not gonna bullshit. But Pompeii is a World Heritage Site, right? It's an ancient city that is frozen in time from thousands of years ago because it was buried under buried under ash from the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in the year 79. So you're looking at basically 2,000 years ago, and everything was preserved. And so you see these excavated ruins of like streets and houses that you can go freely explore, and you can see where they had markets, and you can see how they paved the roads, and you can see how they handled sewage. And then you come to the realization, I think maybe it's because we had a good guide, that how advanced everything was thousands of years ago. I mean, they're trading, and they're trading with people from other cultures. I mean, it was multicultural. It didn't matter what color you were. It didn't matter whether you were a man or woman. And you could see where the shops were set up, and wine bars, and it's not like anything else in the world. So there's Naples, there's Vesuvius, and then because we're close to Naples, it turns out something else was invented in Naples. The world's greatest, most popular food, pizza. And I have said it before, and I will say it again. I have a professional culinary degree. I've eaten at 4,000 restaurants around the world. Nothing makes me happier than pizza. That is my number one meal. And so we're in Naples, and we do a little exploration. And I mean, you could probably get good pizza anywhere you go in Naples. There are a half a dozen places that are notoriously, supposedly better than the rest. We ended up at Brandi, Brandi, because I think we were intrigued with the idea that this is the very place where the pizza margherita got its name. And so again, it's over 100 years old. And I will say this, that the pizza, I don't want to get hung up on saying, on like declaring best. I will say though that it's as good as any pizza that you can get. Again, you're using 3 or 4 very simple ingredients. The dough is perfect. It picks up the char from the the wood burning, coal burning oven. The tomatoes are very simple, kind of squashed San Marzano, which are in this case probably the best tomatoes in the world. The mozzarella is probably coming from buffalo, so it's soft, it's creamy. I mean, and you see the char on the bottom of the crust. If I had that pizza by me, I would be eating it all too often. And then, my friends, we after some time there in Sorrento, had an appointment to spend a couple of days on the island of Capri. I've been there before, unfortunately, for a very short time, so I was excited to get back. And, I mean, long story short, it's a chunk of limestone rock in the middle of the sea. And when I say a chunk, I mean you could boat around the island. I'm going to guess it was 16 miles. What is it? The diameter or the diameter, right? Anyway, take a couple hours in a boat to get around Capri. And everywhere you look, you're on a cliff, because you're on an island that just shoots straight up out of the sea. And this place is iconic for a reason. Maybe, what is it, 6 kilometers long? So what is that, like 3.5 miles long, maybe a mile or so wide. 2 towns on the island. There's Capri, and then high above it is Anacapri. And when you're on this island, the scenery is strikingly gorgeous. Natural kind of wonders everywhere you look, completely green. And again, everything is cliffside. We didn't bring the car over there because that's not even a place I would even think about driving. It's kind of crazy over there, because these are tiny little. You have to be really professionally trained over there to drive a car. And one of the sites that we went for is the Grotto Azzurro, the famed Grotto Azzurro Blue, massive kind of flooded cave with an opening to the sea, and then the reflected sunlight makes the cave appear to be lit from the inside with this kind of eerie, bright blue glow. It's one of those once in a lifetime kind of experiences. Ate a terrific dinner. Up in Anacapri, overlooking essentially again the sea. A pasta made with simple, what do you have? Well, we have spaghetti with the cherry tomatoes, a little bit of garlic olive oil. I mean, it's as good as any pasta that you can have. An amazing, again, I'm saying seaside is redundant, but serious seafood on a cliff at Il Riccio. I'm going to tell you a little bit more because Il Riccio is the restaurant that belongs to the Capri Palace. And it's the Capri Palace, which I will describe to you, and then we'll have our conversation here with Hermano Zanini. Fantastical. So the Capri Palace. Let's just cut right to that. It's part of a group called the Jumeirah Group. You know how there are groups that own hotels? The Jumeirah Group is not particularly well known to Americans, but it's easily one of the great luxury brands in the whole world. You will potentially recognize some of the hotels that they operate, because it includes the Burj Al Arab that in Dubai, one of the tallest hotels in the world. And if you want to know more about the Jumeirah Group, and you want to see some outstanding luxury properties, JUMEIRAH, so it's Jumeirah.com, JUMEIRAH.com, and we spent our time in Anacapri, up at the top of the hill there at the Capri Palace. It's the best luxury 5-star hotel in Capri. And when I say luxury, I mean this place defines luxury. Idyllic location, surrounded by a landscape which is nature at its finest. The design is just contemporary inside the place. The food is fantastic. The service is world-class, impeccable. Some of the rooms face the sea, so you can watch breathtaking the sunsets of the evening from your own balcony. And other rooms come with their own private pool. The bar is stocked with over 300 gins. I failed in my attempt to try them all. I gave it a go. They have a spa there, a great spa. There's a 2 Michelin-starred restaurant on the property, plus the Riccio restaurant that I mentioned before that's overlooking the cliff over there. And this is the kind of professional hospitality that will get you anything you want when you want it. I can't say enough about how spectacular the place is. I will say that, this is luxury. I mean, this is big time. This is a big boy and a big girl place. But if you are lucky and you have the wherewithal, you will not be disappointed for a second at this extraordinary property. With that, let us have a conversation with the guy himself who runs the place, the general manager, Ermanno Zanini, who runs this hotel and other parts of the Jumeirah operation. And here, let's hear what he has to say.
Hey everybody, it's me, Rob, and I am coming to you from Anacapri on the island of Capri, here with the general manager of the Capri Palace, Ermanno Zanini. Ermanno, good morning, how are you?
I'm very well. Good morning to you and good morning to everybody.
I like to start. First of all, thank you for for spending the time, and this is a stunning and glorious place that we're at here. And I guess my first question to you is, because I like to start with the big picture. Tell people where we are in the world. I feel like I am on a giant structure of limestone. That I feel like, if I'm not wrong, Ermanno, you could circle probably 16 miles around this island.
Around the island, yeah.
And just tell people kind of where we are in the world, because it's a very, very unique and special place.
Yeah, it's a small island in the south of Italy, in the heart of the Mediterranean, very close to Naples, and very close to the Amalfi Coast. It's a gem. It's a beautiful island with a long history and a lot of heritages.
Well, speaking of the long history, I know that probably thousands of years ago, this island had some even significance. With emperors, and maybe even a short time as the capital of the Roman Empire. Talk a little bit about the history here in Capri.
Yeah, this is something special, unique, I would say. Capri 2,000 years ago used to be the capital of the Roman Empire. So the Emperor of Roma, he moved from Roma, he came to Capri, and he decided to live here. So the entire world at that time was maybe 30%, 40% of the entire world was led by the Roman Empire from Capri.
From right here. Well, now it's different in the year 2021, but what has not changed is the natural beauty. It's stunning here. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and we are not only on the island of Capri, but we're up in Anacapri. And tell people, I guess, talk about a little bit about kind of the weather, the conditions. When's the time to visit, ideally?
Yeah, the best time is between April and October.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I love May and June,
Mm-hmm.
and again September and October.
Right.
Of course, July, August is high season. A lot of people coming from everywhere. Capri is a very international destination.
Sure.
But my favorite still is, I would say, May and June.
Right.
And back to your question about Anacapri, yes, we are in Anacapri. It's quite strange that in such a small island, there are two different villages. One is Capri and one is Anacapri.
Right.
And Anacapri is a Greek word, means up to Capri. Ana means up to Capri. Anacapri is the highest part of the island with a beautiful view of the bay. And one of the special things, back to the Roman, is that at that time the Roman Empire used to have here in Capri and Anacapri 2 villas, one in Capri and one in Anacapri. Why? Because Anacapri faced the west part of the island. So during the summer, and this Igo, during the summer, the Roman Empire used to live in Anacapri because the light, because the sunset, and because the temperature, because there is the breeze every day. And during the winter, he used to move from Anacapri down to Capri because Capri was less cold than Anacapri during the winter.
The conditions were better. Yeah. Well, it's unbelievable up here. Let's talk about this place because this palace, Capri Palace, is really amazing. I mean, first of all, thank you. It's glorious. The accommodations, the service, the food, the beverage, the views. Really, everything about this place is so stunning. Talk a little bit about the hotel, kind of its origins and where we are now, I think.
Yeah, the hotel is a palace. It was built in the 1960s. By a local gentleman with the vision to create for Anacapri a beautiful destination, a beautiful hotel in the luxury segment, in the luxury market. And at that time was really a vision because Anacapri at that time in the 1960s wasn't in the map of the tourism, international tourism. Capri was already very well known, but Anacapri was a small village. So he invested a lot of resources to create a destination. And I came here in 20 years after, or 30 years after, sorry, in 2000. And at that time, the hotel was still a 4-star hotel.
Right.
So the owner, Tonino Cacace, asked me to convert the 4-star hotel in a luxury hotel. Right. So I started with him 20 years ago. It has been a beautiful journey. And again, the hotel is not only an hotel, it's more than a hotel, it's a special environment. Yeah. As you can see, living here, even though in only 2 days or 3 days, the hotel has a special feeling. And the special feeling, the difference, I think, is the people. People is makes really the difference. We heritage from our ancient, the sense of the hospitality, and we have to respect this sense of the hospitality. And in every people here, you can see that there is this tendency, to welcome, to open the heart, to hug the people, to hug our guests, not only to serve.
Yeah, that has been my experience. You people have been extraordinary, but here's the thing, though. I mean, you can have hospitable, great people in a lot of places. You have that together with this kind of astronomically gorgeous vista, the view, the breeze, the sun, the trees, the structure, everything about the place makes it fantastic, and you deserve obviously much of the credit.
I think the word is harmony. The right word is harmony. Try to create the environment in every field, in every sector, to build up a beautiful harmony, which is the component, of course, is the human component always.
Sure.
The human touch, the attention that we pay to the small details. The fact that our people, they don't follow only the standards, which is of course important, but they follow the heart. They put the love in the things that they do.
Yeah.
And also they try to be creative. I don't like the idea to follow only the standards, the protocol, or the procedures. I give to them, I'm talking about my people, the freedom to be creative, and also to freedom to have a relationship with my guest. Right. Because meeting the guest, spending the time with the guest, we really can understand the needs of the guest, the expectation of the guest.
Yes, it's fantastic. Now, I ask you this as a guy who is a food guy. Uh, And I'll tell you something, by the way. The restaurant Il Riccio, fantastic. I mean, fantastic to sit up there overlooking the water and the breeze, and then of course the food and the dessert room and all that kind of stuff. But I think what I want to ask you about generally is the food. Before we even talk about what you have here, because you have Michelin-starred restaurants right here at the hotel. But before we even get into that, just the food in Capri. What are people going to eat? That is local when they come to Capri.
You know, the quality of the food overall in Capri and all Amalfi Coast is very, very good, very high, because the food, like in Italy, everywhere,
Sure.
it's part of the hospitality. It's
Yes, it
part
is.
of our life. And they love the simple things, honestly.
Right.
They see the difference. They found the difference when they try the tomato, when they try the olive oil, when they try the risotto with seafood, when they try ravioli caprese, for instance, which is quite a local dish. So what I noted is that more and more the traveler, the more sophisticated travelers, they are looking for the normal things, the simple things.
Right.
And so it's not a matter to be sophisticated with the food.
Right.
It's always a matter of quality of the ingredients. And we are lucky, again, at this part of the world, we are lucky because the quality of the ingredients is amazing, it's stunning. And even though you do a dish of spaghetti with tomato and basil, you can really feel the quality.
I could not agree with you more. It's really we have been here long enough to sample local products wherever we go. So, for example, over in Nerano, we knew to have the pasta with the zucchini, and I think even in Positano, they made us a like a pesto, but not the typical pesto. It was made with the green peperoncino verde, which was a blowaway. And then, you know, even last night, we ended up going with the very basic spaghetti with the oiled tomato basil. And my daughter thought that of all of those, that was the one that she thought was the best. I mean, so it's I've always been a big believer in kind of the Italian, what I call the Italian aesthetic, which is the best ingredients. You don't do a lot with them. You don't need to do a lot. Just use those, and it's beautiful food. You not only have Michelin restaurants here. I am sitting just what you would say would be 25 meters from 302 different gins here in the bar. And I did my best to sample as many as I could. Talk a little bit about that concept, about the concept here at the bar overlooking the water with over 300 gins. What's that about?
Yeah, the food and beverage is a column, is a part of the concept of this hotel. Again, we have a 2 Michelin star restaurant in-house here in hotel, L'Olivo,
Right.
Which is a sort of a flagship. It's the only 2 Michelin star restaurant on the island.
Right.
But again, the Michelin is not only a target; it's not an objective. It's just the result of the passion that we put in this field. And as you mentioned before, we have a beautiful restaurant in Riccio, which is a seafood restaurant on the sea,
Right.
just next to the Blue Cave, the Blue Grotto. It's quite popular. It's maybe one of the most popular restaurants in the Bay. And the bar is also, as you can see, is a beautiful space overlooking the Bay of Naples.
Yep.
You know, here in Capri, the guests, the traveler, they spend most of the time, for lunch, for dinner. So they follow also the code and the habits of the local people. As Neapolitan, as Italian, you know that we spend for lunchtime sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours.
Nice.
Not eating only, but
Right.
talking. It's a part of our relationship
Right.
with.
Well, it reminds me of what makes Italy special. It's a combination of the culture and certainly the amazing kind of food and wine you can get anywhere, including on a stop at the Autostrada. I mean, people take pride in the food everywhere you go here, but I think part of what makes the country amazing is the people and their enjoyment of life and their celebration of life, and you know, and I learned during my trip here. I mean, Americans are not great with history or geography, generally speaking, but so I was reminded in my trip over to Pompeii, not terribly far away. I mean, the Romans did everything. I mean, we don't have water delivered to our home if it's not for the Romans. So I am really always excited to be here in your country. Capri is amazing. Anna Capri, maybe even more so. The Capri Palace, just fantastic. I wish that I could come back, but I wish that I could stay, but even if I can't, I'm hoping to come back. Any final words from you, my friend? Any final thoughts about, well, whatever you like?
You know, this is your house in Anna Capri. You will be always welcome. Not only you, your family, but also your friends, because the friends of our friends are our friends as well.
Well, thank you, Ermanno Zannini, the general manager here at the Capri Palace. It's a pleasure, and thank you for your hospitality, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming.
Well, everyone, that is Ermanno Zannini. He runs the Capri Palace. It is legitimately a palace, and when you are there, you are treated like royalty. And if you're lucky in your life, you get to go there. So again, thanks to Ermanno for the hospitality and for spending the time on the interview. Beautiful part of the world, beautiful country. I suppose I was a little bit ambitious in terms of thinking how much we would cover in this particular podcast, episode 115, by the way, of All You Can Eat. This one is all about Italy, and yet I guess I'm going to have to do a part 2 because I didn't cover 1 second of Tuscany or Florence or Rome, and my goodness, there is plenty to report about that part of the world. But let's leave this one here. Let's focus on what got us into Italy in the first place, which is that it's glorious and beautiful and safe and delicious, and getting down from flying into Rome to driving around the Amalfi Coast, and then hanging out in not only in Sorrento, but of course here in Capri. Episode 115 of All You Can Eat, my friends. Of course, we run live on Wednesday nights around the world. Then you can find us. All You Can Eat is available to you on the largest podcast platforms in the world. That's iHeartRadio, it's Spotify, it is Spreaker. And it is a delight, as always, to spend any time at all with you, especially when we get to talk not only about deliciousness, but in this case, really an extraordinary time in Italy. If you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have feedback, I'm easy to find because I believe the easiest thing to do is go to my website. It's realrobrosenthal.com. And somewhere at the very bottom of that website is a contact form. You can go, hey, Rob, what's that place that you stayed in Sorrento, the Airbnb place? Or, hey, Rob, tell me about, again, the meal over there at Adolfo in Positano, whatever it is that you like. Anyway, that is it for me today. I'm going to come back at you next week with part 2 of Italy and talk about wine and cheese and steak and Florence and, I mean, beyond delicious, which is, of course, the nature of the All You Can Eat podcast. I'm Rob Rosenthal. Remember this, my friends, life is short, so never waste a meal.
I'm the Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.